morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us for this morning's broadcast. I have a word for you this morning concerning transition. I wonder how many of you are dealing with transition? How many of you are in a season of transition? Or how many of you simply just want to understand what you have to go through when you go through transition? Now, if that's you, join me in the book of Genesis, chapter number 32, beginning at verse 27. Again, we're going to be in the book of Genesis, beginning at chapter number 32, verse 27. And it reads, "The man asked him, 'What is your name?' 'Jacob,' he answered. Then the man said, 'Your name will no longer be called Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with humans and have overcome.' And Jacob said, 'Please tell me your name.' But he replied, 'Why do you ask my name?' Then he blessed him there. And Jacob called the place Peniel, saying, 'It is because I saw God face to face, and yet my life was spared.'" But I really want to park here on this 31st verse. "The sun rose above him as he passed Peniel, and he was limping because of his hip." Beloved, Jacob was in a season of transition. He was limping when things changed. And I need you to understand that today. And so one thing that I want to do today is I want to talk about Jacob a little bit, but I want to paint some illustrations. I'm not just going to deal with Jacob. I want to talk about a lion and some of the things that a lion may go through and overlay that with this text, if you allow me. So let's go ahead and get started. Transitions are extremely important. But the fact is that nobody teaches us how to transition. Nobody shows us how to transition from being single to married. Nobody shows us how to transition from being a renter to an owner. And nobody shows us how to transition from being a taker to a giver. Nobody shows us how to do these things. And so there's no classes to help you to make the jump, to make the leap from being an employee to an entrepreneur. There are no people that are showing you how to make the jump from having a job to owning a business. And people are trying to figure out all of these things right now. And the Lord showed me that many of you and many of us are just caged up right now. And the thing that you have to understand, that it is clear by the gate's cage that every trainer knows that domestication is not a natural phenomenon. No, it's not a natural phenomenon for a lion, whose wild nature just precludes him from being ever being comfortable in a cage. He's just not comfortable there. And yet, even though his instincts are guilt for the wild, he has to overcome this abusive background in the cage. And he has to overcome this because the cage has now been his home. And I know when you go to the zoo, because I've taken my kids to the zoo, and that's kind of what inspired this conversation today that I want to have with you. But I know you've been to the zoo and you go and look at the animals and it's wonderful and you enjoy, but that's because you're not a lion. You don't think it's abusive because you want to go watch and you want to be entertained. But from a spectator's perspective, you go and watch the lion for entertainment. But you have to understand that your entertainment is the lion's incarceration. Yeah, your entertainment, the money that you spend to go to the zoo and take your kids so you can show pictures and all of that kind of stuff, they have the experience. Our entertainment is the lion's incarceration. And yet, if he has been raised in captivity, his background has become so abusive that now it's natural. And you wonder, how do I get out of this abusive background when that has been my norm? And now you're living in a zoo and somebody else benefits from your captivity. Even if the only benefit is for what they call normal, to keep you in a certain little box. And that's what people will do. They'll come because they want things to stay the same, and they'll want to keep you in a box, and they'll want to keep you caged up, and they'll want to keep you in that certain little box, and they'll let you move around the box. Yeah, they'll let you walk in circles around the box. They'll let you walk in straight lines through the box, but they're not going to let you out of the box. They don't want you to do anything different. They don't want you to do anything else. They don't want you to go anywhere else. They say, just stay right here in this cage. This is where you belong, right here in this cage. And all of a sudden, you start hearing this preacher from West Texas talking about you can get out of this, that you can transition, that you don't have to be in a cage, that you don't have to be locked up, that you too can be in transition, and that's okay. Then that's okay. And so I wonder if you'll just type it on the line and say, I can get out. I can get out. I can get out. Yeah, I can get out. I can get out, because that's the word that I came to let you know, that you're in transition, but you can get out. Just because something is familiar does not mean that it's natural. And just because you're doing it doesn't mean it's right. You have to understand that the lion has something in them that requires them to gradually make the transition to freedom. And I want to talk to some people who are making transitions this Sunday morning. I dare you just to type in the comments and say, I'm in transition, Pastor. I'm in transition. I'm making my transition. Some of you, your kids are going off to school and you're in transition. Your kids are going back to school and you're in transition. Some of you are in new relationships and you're in transition. Some of you started new jobs and you're in transition. You started a new business. You started something new. Something in you said, there got to be more than this. You're moving to a new city. You're getting ready to get married again. Things are going on in your life and you say, I'm in transition. I dare you just to type it on the line and say, I'm in transition, Pastor. I'm in transition. I'm in transition. And the real question when you're in transition is between staying there and leaping out. You have to make up your mind. Are you going to stay where you are? Or are you going to leap out of that situation? There's something between working your job and quitting your job. That's what I'm talking about when I talk about staying and leaping. There's something about staying on the job or quitting the job and starting a business with no money. There is something between being single for 40 years and then jumping into a marriage. That whatever, I don't know what your cage is, but whatever your cage is this Sunday morning, and by the way, I want to tell you that everybody has a cage. Yes, everybody has a cage. And it may be a spiritual cage, it may be a moral cage, it may be an emotional cage, but I just came to tell you that everybody has a cage. It may be a financial cage, it may be a relational cage, it may be a mental cage, but everybody on here has a cage. In fact, David says it this way. David says we were born in captivity. He says this way verbatim. He says, we were born in sin and shapen in iniquity. In other words, he's saying we were born in a box. Stay with me. We were born in a box. And so what do I do in all of my experiences validate my incarceration? What do I do? What do you do in all of your experiences in your life validate your situation and your incarceration? But yet at the same time, there's something inside of you that's nagging you in that cage. Something in you that's saying there's something else out there. There's a roar inside of you. There's a roar inside of you, and you begin to growl and you go up and you look at the bars and because you know there's something else out there. And you go back and then you come back again and you go into the bars and you roar again because you know that there's something else out there for you. Many of us go to church every Sunday morning only to get back in the cage on Monday morning. You roared at it on Sunday and you walk back into captivity on Monday. You have to understand that there's something in you that roars. Something in you that begins to roar from the inside when you want to escape your situation, when you want to escape the parameters of your life and your situation. And so you have to understand that whenever you get ready to leap out of a situation, whenever you get ready to transition, I want you to understand this, because this is where most people quit. You had the fire, you had the growl, you had the tenacity, you had the perseverance, you had the will, you had the strength, you had the vision to leap out of that situation. But whenever you leap out of a situation, there will always be a limp. Yeah. Whenever you leap out of that situation, as excited as you were to leap out of that situation, there'll always be a limp. The limp. You might leap over here, but you're going to limp back. And transitions are important. But I need you to understand this morning that transitions are tough. Yes, transitions are tough. It is not an easy way to go through. You cannot go through this process without pain. I need you to understand that. You cannot go through transition without pain. I'm telling you this from firsthand experiences. You will not go through a transition without pain. Genesis 32:27 says, and he said unto him, what is thy name? And he said, who are you? And I wondered, have you ever wondered, who are you? Who are you? Are you the one in the cage or are you the one in the wild? Who are you? Are you Jacob the trickster? Just like your mama, you know mama was slick. And so Jacob, are you slick? Are you slick just like your mama? Are you slick just like your Uncle Abel? All your kin folks are sneaky, Jacob. Is that you? Are you sneaky? Are you just like them? Who are you? Who are you? And so here God asks, who are you? And he says, my name is Jacob. He says, I guess I am who they call me. Jacob means trickster. And so he's telling God, I guess I am what they said about me. I guess I am what they thought about me. I guess I am what they labeled me as. And let me tell you something. Just because somebody called you something, just because somebody said something about you, just because somebody labeled you, just because somebody put a tag on you, just because somebody gossiped about you and said you were this, and that, I need you to understand this. Just to get, even if they did something to you or if they took something from you, I need you to understand this. Nobody gets the right to define your destiny based off your history. Nobody gets to define who you're going to become based off what you've been. I need you to understand that this morning. Nobody gets to define your future based on your past. They don't get to do that. Nobody gets that right. And so he said, this is God talking. Thy name shall be called no more Jacob. This was a name-changing moment in the middle of transition. He said, thy name shall no more be called Jacob. Thy name shall no more be called Jacob. Thy name shall no more be called Jacob. Why don't you open up your mouth and say that with me? Thy name shall no more be called Jacob. I dare you just to type it on the line right now. Thy name shall no more be called Jacob. Go on and type it in the comments. Thy name shall no more be called Jacob. Now, I want you to take the next step, because you've been labeled and you've been talked about and you've been criticized and you've been ostracized and you have been tagged and you have been labeled. And people have called you things and they've done something, they've made opinions about you, and they shared that with everybody else so other people will judge you and label you. So I need you to do this with me right now. I need you to type on the line whatever label they put on you. Say, thy name shall no more be called whatever it is. Thy name shall no more be called liar, trickster, scammer, quitter, whatever it is that they've called you, whatever it is that they've labeled you, I dare you to type that. Thy name, this is your moment right now. Thy name shall no more be called whatever it is. And I need you to be clear. When we get to verse 30, and Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, he says, for I've seen God face to face, and my life has been preserved. And in verse 31, he says, as he passed over Peniel, the Bible says that the sun rose upon him. And I just want to tell you, when you pass this test, the sun is going to rise upon you. Yeah, the sun is going to rise upon you and shine on your life. And so you have to understand that when you get over this hurdle in your life, I want you to understand that there will be a limp. Yeah, when you get over this hurdle, when you get out of this cage, you did some leaping, but the result is going to be a limping. And so you'll limp. But I need you to understand the limp is not all bad. The limp that you have in your life right now, don't quit. Don't give up and say, well, I need to go back to the cage because I'm limping and this must be punishment from God. This limp is not meant to cripple you. This limp is not meant to punish you. This limp is only meant to remind you of how much the cost of freedom is. That's why you're limping, because you're headed towards freedom. And the limp is always there to remind you about the cost of freedom. You got released out of captivity into freedom. You're leaving out of captivity and going into the wild. That's what the lion is doing. He's gotten out of the cage and he's going in to be free. But you had to limp. And that's what's going on in your life. You got free. You got out of that job. You got out of that situation. You got out of that church. You got out of that bad friendship. You got out of that clique. You got out of those things, and now you're limping and you've been wondering, is God punishing me? No. He's just reminding you about the cost of freedom. The limp is the telltale sign that you didn't get to where you are right now without struggle. That's what the limp is. The limp is just a telltale sign that you didn't get to where you are without a fight and some struggle. You didn't get there without pain. You didn't get there without a fight. You didn't get there without a struggle. And he said, I'll let you run with the rest of the lions. But when you run, you're going to be limping. And he says, I meant for you to limp. He says, you're limping on purpose. And God says, I designed your limp to make you humble. This is a humility limp, so that you wouldn't be arrogant, so that you wouldn't be high-minded, so that you wouldn't think more of yourself than what you are. He said, I designed the limp to make you humble. I designed the limp to make you thankful. I designed the limp to make you grateful. That's it. And I just wonder this morning, are there any limpers that are on the line this morning? Any limpers that are watching this broadcast this morning saying, Pastor, you know what? Yeah, I'm a limper. I understand now why I'm going through what I'm going through. I understand why I have this limp. I understand why I have this ailment. I understand why I have this thing that just won't seem to go away. And it just came all of a sudden. I wasn't limping when I was in that relationship. I wasn't limping when I was in that cave. I wasn't limping when I was in that terrible situation. I wasn't limping when I was over there. But as soon as I got out, I started limping. And I couldn't figure it out. And God said, it's to humble you, to remind you not to think more of yourself than what you are. And God said, every time that you want to get puffed up, I want to remind you of what it cost you to get out of the cage that you were in. And when others are high-minded and self-righteous, he said, I want you to promise me that you'll lay on your face before me and thank me for delivering you out of the cage, because you didn't get out by yourself. He said, I left the limp as a reminder that if the Lord hadn't have been on my side, that I would have been swallowed up. And I wonder if there are any limping servants, any people who serve the Lord that are limping, that are watching this broadcast. Somebody who limped your way to all of your blessings. Somebody who limped your way into owning your own house. Somebody who limped your way into a marriage. Somebody who limped your way into a promotion. Somebody who limped your way into a new business. And you know in your mind you can't get high-minded. Because you know, just yesterday you were stuck in the cage. But you'll leap out of the cage and you'll begin to limp. And as you begin to limp, God told me to tell you, you're going to learn some things. Yeah, you're going to learn some things. You're going to learn your way. The Bible says, take my yoke upon you and learn of me. Now I have to learn how to hunt now that I'm out of captivity and I'm into the wild. Now I got to learn how to hunt. I'm used to being fed, but now I have to learn how to hunt. I hope you understand. See, when you get out of the cage, you're going to have to learn some things. Do I chase? Do I bite? Do I roar? Do I growl? Do I jump? I don't know. I have to learn how to do this because it's new. Let me tell you this, because this is going to bless your life. In order to learn the wild, you got to unlearn the cage. In order to learn the wild, you got to unlearn the cage. See, when God is taking you to a new place, when God is elevating you, when God is promoting you, when God is taking you to freedom, you can't do the things that you used to do. You can't be who you used to be. You can't do cage things in the wild. Nobody's going to feed you in the wild. Nobody's going to give you this in the wild. Nobody's coming and babysitting you in the wild. Nobody's doing this. Nobody's coming and wanting to pet you in the wild. Nobody's celebrating you when you're out there on freedom. You are on your own, and now you have to survive. And so you have to unlearn what went on in the cage so that you can learn what you need to do in the wild. And I'm telling you, I need you to write this down. Captivity is a learned behavior. Yeah, captivity is a learned behavior. Your captivity is a learned behavior, because if you learn how to make do in the cage, then you can learn how to hunt in the wild, because you've already shown that you can learn. You weren't born in a cage. You were put in there. You were held captive. You were captured. And somebody put you in a box. If you learn how to make it in the box, I'm just telling you, you're wise enough, you're smart enough, you're intelligent enough to be able to learn when you get outside of the box. And I need you to understand this. You have to stop putting, and I had to learn this the hard way. This is a hard lesson that I had to learn this year. I had to learn that I was putting too much energy in a system that I wasn't designed to stay in. Yeah, I put too much energy in a system that I wasn't designed to stay in. And I hope that you understand what I'm trying to tell you on this Sunday morning. If I put too much energy in trying to learn how to survive in a system, why am I acting like I'm going to live over here when I'm called over there? That's what you got to understand. I'm going to learn something. I've got to learn how to hunt in the wild rather than to eat in captivity. I've got to learn how to hunt in the wild rather than being comfortable eating in captivity. But not only this, see, in life, you're going to have to unlearn, learn, and relearn some things. That's life. There's some things you got to unlearn. There's some things that you learned that you thought were right and people always said it was right, and that's the way to do it. I'm going to tell you, there are going to be some things that you have to unlearn for where you're going in life. And so you're going to leap. And when you get through leaping, you're going to limp. And while you limp, you're going to learn. But this is one of the biggest ones, and this one will hurt you right here. You're going to lose. Yes, you're going to lose. See, we don't like losing. And I'm going to tell you as your pastor, I hate to lose more than I like to win. So this particularly affects me right here. And you may be like your pastor. I love to win, but I hate losing. And the losing will never excite you. But I got to tell you about losing anyway. Nothing venture, nothing gain. There's always going to be losses in your life. Shed off. Yeah, you got to shed it off. Shed off that which you cannot transform. You got to shed it off. This is a shedding season this year. If you can't change them, if you can't change them, if they won't change, shed it off. Shed it off. Shed off everything that won't transform. I had to learn this. Either you change or I'm dropping you. That's life. Either you change or I'm dropping you. Shed those things off that will not change. You got to cut them off. There's some things and some people that you're going to have to cut off in your life. The chicken cannot be hatched without shattering the outer encasement of the egg. That's what held him. But when the chicken wanted to get out, he had to shatter it. There's no nice way for the chicken to get out of the egg without cracking the shell, because it's got to go. And there's going to be some shell cracking that you have to do in your life. I dare you just to type it on the comments, say it's got to go. It's got to go. I got to do what I got to do. A guy's got to do what he's got to do. A girl's got to do what she's got to do. A man got to do what he got to do. A woman got to do what she got to do. A brother got to do what he got to do. A sister got to do what she got to do. The pastor got to do what he got to do. Some things got to be shed off, cut off, and shattered in this season of your life if you're going to move forward in transition. I need you to understand this. The seed must lose its outer encasement before it ever becomes a tree. Blind Bartimaeus had to shed off his coat. Need you to understand that. He had to get rid of his coat. He had to drop his coat to get to Jesus. The woman at the well had to drop her water pots to get to Jesus. And so you and I and all of us must lose something in order to move ahead. It's going to cost us something to move ahead. See, too many people want to go in transition and they want to learn and they want to leap and they want to limp, but they don't want to lose anything. They don't want to pay the cost. The snake sheds its skin. The dog sheds its old coat. The worm sheds its cocoon to access its new wings. Those, and I need you to understand that, people who cannot handle loss are restricted from leading the way to new turf. People who cannot handle loss are restricted from leading the way to new turf. What are you saying? What I'm saying is, if you don't want it bad enough to lose something, then shut your mouth. That's what I'm telling you. If you don't want to get out of the cage bad enough, if you don't want to get out of the box bad enough, if you say, well, I want to get out, but I'm not going to lose anything. I'm not going to lose some relationships. I'm not going to lose this. I'm not going to lose that. I'm not going to lose this. And I refuse to lose, but I'm going to move forward. No, you're not. You're going to have to lose some things in order to move forward. There will be losses. There will be collateral damage. In business, we call it a business expense. We call it a business write-off. Yeah, we lost. There will be losses. But you have to understand that you cannot be innovative and traditional at the same time. I need you to understand that. You cannot be innovative and traditional at the same time. You have to forget those things which are behind and reach for those things which are ahead. So you have to leave your coat, you got to drop your water pot, you got to come out of your cocoon, and you got to crack your shell in this season of your life. And I just came to tell you, it's going to be worth it. It's absolutely going to be worth it. When you realize that the thing in front of you is greater than the thing that is behind you, then you can take the loss. See, that's the secret. See, when you realize that the thing behind you is smaller than what God has in front of you, when you realize that God has so much in front of you that you're not going to worry about what you lost, you're not going to worry about what you left behind, because the Bible says it this way: I press toward the mark of the prize of the high calling of God in Jesus Christ. So I'm going to forget about those things that are behind me, because I'm going to get to what God has ahead of me. And so I wonder this morning if you would write down some habits that you got to drop, some things you got to drop in order to go to the next level. Some things you got to drop in order to go to the place that God is calling you to. What are some things that you have to drop? What cocoons do you have to come out of? What shells do you got to crack? What pots do you have to drop? What coats do you have to shed in this season of your life in order to take Jesus up on this offer? Blind Bartimaeus, what is your coat? Don't tell me that you're going to come into a new opportunity without losing something. It's impossible. You cannot go into a new opportunity without losing something. And I want you to challenge yourself in this season of your life. What are you willing to drop? What are you willing to drop to get to the next level? What are you willing to drop to get to the next level in your life? Everybody has to drop something. Blind Bartimaeus dropped his coat. The woman had to drop her water pot. The silkworm has to drop its cocoon if the outer casement of the sea is supposed to be shattered. The chicken has to crack the shell. What are you willing to crack to find your wings? What are you willing to crack to find your wings? What are you willing to drop to get to the next level? Because that's what God wants to know. What is it? What is it? What is it that you got to let go of? You've been in a box so long that you think that box is life. You think there's nothing outside of the box. You think that nothing in your life will ever change. And the devil is a lie. That's simply not true. But you've got to learn how to see outside of the box. You got to learn how to color outside of the lines. You cannot let people keep you in a box all of your life. If you let them, they'll do it because people are concerned about themselves and not you. It's your abuse. It's their entertainment. A lot of people are not concerned about you. They're concerned about themselves. God is concerned about you, and he wants to help you navigate this transition and help you to get out of the box. But when you get out of the box, as the lion gets out of the cage, you're going to limp. But it's not punishment. It's humility. It's a reminder of what you had to go through to get out of that. And never to think more of yourself than somebody else. Never to judge, never to criticize. It'll help you to keep your mouth shut. And you'll have to learn how to do some things when you get out. Learn how to do some new things. And when you get through learning, one of the things you gotta learn is sometimes you gotta be willing to lose. Sometimes you gotta lose to win. Sometimes you gotta lose to win. You gotta drop something to win. I lost the shell. I lost the cocoon. I lost the seed. But look what I'm gaining. Stop thinking so much about what you're leaving behind and what you're losing. And think about what you're going to gain. Think about what God has for you in your life. And I wonder, what are you willing to crack in order to find your wings on this Sunday morning? What are you willing to drop in order to go to the next level of your life? That's what I want you to think about today, because God is calling you higher in this season. You've been wondering, when is it going to be my turn? When is it going to be my time? When is it going to be my season? Everybody seems to be getting blessed with me. I wonder when, Lord, when you crack your shell, when you make up your mind that losing is worth it, when you make up your mind that I'm coming out hell or high water, when you make up your mind that I'm going to leave this behind so that I can get this that he has ahead of me, that he has before me, when I stop looking back and I begin to look forward and I focus on forward and I have forward thinking, not past thinking, not traditional thinking, but innovative thinking, and I begin to be a forward thinker, things will begin to change in your life. So I just wanted to bring you a simple message. If this message blessed you, like it, share it, subscribe to our channel, and bless somebody with it. Because you're not the only one that's in transition. Others are in transition too. This is Pastor Lawrence. I love you. I want to thank you for watching the broadcast, and we'll see you next week. We're in transition. God bless you.